What's going on? What's going on? This is D-Style Boxing. I'm being joined by Chicano Prophet. Chief Funky will be joining us momentarily. Man, let me tell you something. You are tuning in to another edition, all right, of Hispanics, Calls, and Panic. And that is a November 17th edition. A lot to talk about today. Of course, Canelo, a big announcement. He will be fighting Callum Smith. A lot of people looking forward to that. ESPN, the numbers are in. We're going to talk about that for the Crawford-Brook fight and its result. And as well, the whole controversy with was it a headbutt? Was it not a headbutt? That they make the right decision. And also, Chavez Jr.'s fight was postponed. We're all, wondering about that one. You know what I mean? So we really got to talk about that for sure. That's the headline of the week and what everybody wants to talk about for sure. And a lot more after this.
Panic, closing, panic, let's go!
Round and round we go, wearing a pinche rabbit's foot for luck, just ahead of the fucking hounds. ¿Qué hubo? ¡Ah! ¡Qué vida es! ¡Qué loca vida, home!
Como decimos en México, hay que dejarnos de mamadas. No hay que... Los cinturones aquí se hacen a un lado. Hay que pelear por honor y por gloria nada más.
I invite him into the ring, and like we say in Mexico, we don't fuck around. We don't fight for rings and stuff like that. I don't fear anyone.
En este deporte no se viene a jugar y no le tengo miedo a nadie.
We don't come to play in this sport. I fear no one in this sport.
What's your prediction for the fight, then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
Como decimos en México, hay que dejarnos de mamadas.
We come out chased by hounds.
Hey, Batista, you have to update that. It's not Street Fighter month no more. It's Batman month. You know what I mean? You're 2 months behind. Now, I'm a little too lazy to change that one, but you got the theme song nonetheless. Make sure you throw a nice jab to the like button. If you like the content, a nice cross to the subscribe, and always hit that uppercut on that bell button for all content. That way you're notified every time D-Style Boxing comes on live, especially for shows like Hispanics, Cousin, Panic. What's going on to Taco Veristian out there? Brew Horace, Christian NWO, Haplotype, Black and Brown is out there. Run PMC, A-Rod 83, Sonteo Media, says puro HCP, ¿dónde está toda la plebada? Saludos, mi raza. Canelo is back, he says. 92 AKU, Antonio Garcia and Mike 104. How is it going? We got a great show for you tonight, for sure. Let me tell you something. I'm pumped. Last week I said Chicano, take out the trumpets. And boy, are they playing right now. The trumpets are playing for sure. What are your thoughts, man? Saul, Canelo, Alvarez is back. What are your thoughts?
Man, I feel good about it. I'm here to bring the appropriate level of excitement that there should be for news like this on a premier Mexican boxing channel like this. And I like the enthusiasm, D-Style, because I got to say, for a while, when I hear you talk about Canelo, I feel like you treat Canelo like the eldest son. Hold him up to a very high standard, and you hardly ever give him credit for anything. Hardly ever praise him. Meanwhile, you treat Mikey Garcia like the late whoopsie baby. As long as he's doing all right, you're happy, and you go on and on of all the things that he's capable of, even though he doesn't accomplish that much. As long as he's good, you're happy. And G-Funky, well, I wish G-Funky was here, but, he's had a complicated 10-year relationship with Canelo, and he's just starting to warm up to him. But I'm here to celebrate the fact that Canelo is headed up to 168 pounds, and he's going to continue to add to the rich legacy of Mexican boxing. It was number one at 154, the champion at 160 pounds. I'm not even going to talk about all the medals that were put around him in this time to save us a little bit of time. Got a belt at 175. Now he's settling at 168 to face the number one fighter in that division, the Ring Magazine champion of that division, an undefeated champion. Just like always, we should be more excited about this fight, but we're not, because this is what Canelo does all the time. We're just used to it.
He's all right. No, but look, obviously, I think this is a good opponent for Canelo. By the way, someone, Taco, wants you to give him a shout out. Can you give the guy a shout out?
Hey, Taco, the fourth member of the Canelo Cartel, man. You're doing good work out in the chats, man. I see you. Okay, well, there you go. All right. And salute to the Canelo Cartel, says Black and Brown, making moves. I wouldn't expect any less from the Canelo Cartel. But I do want to say, though, I hold Canelo to a high standard. I want him to face top opposition. I don't want him to face Advil Urine, which it looks like that's where they were going. But hey, props to Canelo, man. And he basically gave the WBC the middle finger here. And it's going to be fighting for the WBA super strap and the ring strap. And I think that's a better move for Canelo, in all honesty. Okay. And if the WBC wants to put the vacant WBC title on the line, and now's the time to make the move. Do you really want to, stay on that Advil Urine ship? Okay. All right. But you were right, though. People just assuming that Canelo's going to fight Advil Urine. We're wrong. So he did not take the Advil Urine, Anvil, the Neidhart, all that good stuff. Okay. But that's that. Haplotypes, when was the last time Canelo fought at a real weight class? Haplotype, I do believe 168 is a real weight class, and I do believe 175 is a real weight class, and 160 is a real weight class too. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty certain that they're real weight classes. Am I wrong? People are trying to get that hating in early, man.
Yeah, that's right. He hasn't fought in a catchweight since, I believe, the first Triple G fight.
I don't think that one was at a catchweight, was it?
And if that one wasn't in the Cotto, that's it.
I think he fought Chavez at 164.
Okay, the Khan fight, but that's it. That's no. And that favored Khan. Well, was he going to make Khan go all the way to 160? So I didn't like that fight, by the way, but I'm just putting that out there. That's not a real factual statement to make, Haplotype. That sounds a little far-fetched. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Now, the Puerto Rican Berlanga, not fighting a real weight class, but that's a different story. And hopefully the Puerto Rican Haplotype can keep that same consistency when it comes to that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I'm just saying. I think Canelo hasn't really fought in a catchweight since the Khan fight. If we're honest.
It's been a long time, man. People are still sore.
It's been a long time, that's for sure. Yeah. All right. Oh, he said it was a fun question to answer. Okay. Well, we'll dive in more into the Canelo thing when Chief Funk is back. By the way, guys, you can now listen to HCP on Pandora. So all you guys are getting all your free music on Pandora and all that good stuff. Guess what? Okay, you don't have to pay YouTube for the premium to have your phone on standby and still listen in on the show. You can listen to it on Pandora now, and of course, we're also available on iHeart, Blog Talk Radio, Podbean, all of them, Stitcher, iHeart, everything. You know what I mean? Apple Music, okay, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, all of it. We're on all of them. All right. And now we are on Pandora as well. I feel like I've made it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of feel like we're going places. So
big announcement and just putting that out there. This is Batman theme month, by the way. If you have anyone specific you want to see on the artwork, let me know on the community page when I post, hey, I want to see Poison Ivy, I want to see so-and-so and so-and-so. But Canelo is not a Batman character, though. I'm just putting that out there. All right, Chicano?
That sounds good, man.
Yeah.
I'm
What about
digging
Canelo versus Batman? You think that can be like kind of like he fought Ali? Is Canelo ready? I don't know. No. Ali fought Superman, but can Canelo get in there with Batman? What do you think?
Batman has a way to beat everybody. He's too smart.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he can't use all those gadgets in the ring, though.
If it was a clean fight, I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't seen Bruce Wayne or in the ring. I'm sure he's athletic, but he'd probably get put down just like the rest of them. Then, if we're being honest.
Right, most definitely. And let's stay on here. Hey, what's going on?
Chief Funky.
The one, the only Chief Funky. How's it going, Chief Funky?
Oh, man, what a day, man. Busy day. Got caught up in some traffic and some bad weather out there. But, hey, I made it, man. Couldn't leave you guys hanging. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Chief Funky, give us your thoughts on the announced fight. Canelo versus Callum Smith is official. Okay, multiple sources have put that out there. What are your thoughts on this fight being announced?
Well, it was, kind of to be expected. There's been some rumblings for about a week now about this fight happening. Good fight, man. Good comeback fight for Canelo. He's been out for over a year now. This is a good opponent that he's in there with, considering, again, that he's been out for a long time. So we'll see if he can shake off the rust and put on another great performance. But I'm looking forward to it, especially since they're talking about putting the Garcia Campbell co-feature on the undercard. So it'll make for a good event. And I'm real excited, man.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I'm looking forward to this one. I know a lot of people are going to shit on Callum Smith, but I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this is, again, a lot of these guys are not fighting this level of opposition and getting a whole lot of credit for it. You know what I mean? Like, I just got to say that. Before we proceed, Chicano, anything that you foresee being said? I mean, what is the official Canelo cartel, stance on people that are, bashing this fight, saying this is a cherry pick by Canelo?
Well, I already saw the narratives ahead of time. With Callum Smith, it's like, he's easy. Like, he's not even the best stylistically as far as a hard opposition for Canelo. So we've already heard that. We heard that Caleb Plant's the guy who would give him more trouble. And I would agree with that. But if Caleb Plant was to get that fight, it would have been, this guy hasn't really fought anybody to the level of Canelo. He hasn't fought anybody at all, actually. So there was no winning here. Canelo fighting the 168-pound number one Ring Magazine champion, to me, is a very good fight, especially like G Funky said, after having to shake off a year of ring rust. I can't really see much hate elsewhere. I think it's a very good fight. I mean, the odds are much tighter than, like, for example, Canelo's a negative 500 favorite. When Terrance Crawford fought Kell Brook, he was a negative 1,600 favorite. So the odds there were 3 times as wide. So this is a good fight, according to the odds. And I'm looking forward to it.
And I'll tell you what, you're comparing the opening odds of this fight to the closing odds of the other fight. The Canelo Callum Smith will close, especially when all those delusional Brits start betting on Callum Smith. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. Okay, shots fired. Okay, bombs have landed in London. Okay, or wherever he's from. Okay, and but or Sheffield, is that what it's from? Joe Tessitore, you out there? Okay, well, we'll talk about Joe Tessitore in a little bit, but how about this? I don't want to throw Oscar De La Hoya or Gomez or whoever runs Golden Boy, okay, under the bus, okay? But it looks like Eddie Hearn delivered, and Canelo's fighting on the zone without the assistance of Golden Boy here, and it looks like the fight was a lot easier to make. Once he left Golden Boy, Chief Funky, do you think, Eddie Hearn deserves some credit for delivering here? Do you think it's more so Canelo? And how do you think Golden Boy falls into this here? Does it make Golden Boy look bad here?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I mean, we know Canelo's to the point in his career right now where, especially him being a free agent, he can call the shots wherever he wants to fight, he's going to fight. Eddie Hearn, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say he deserves a little bit of credit, for bringing him back on And I mean, yeah, Golden Boy's looking a little silly right now with some of the things that they're doing, but I think it's a combination of all three things. But I think it's mostly just Canelo. Just he can pick and choose wherever he wants to fight and who he wants to fight at this point in his career. So, I think it's mostly him in this situation.
What are your thoughts on this? Is this a bad look for Golden Boy in your opinion, Chicano?
I think it could be. I do think that it was a good move on Oscar De La Hoya to extend the olive branch to Canelo and say some nice things while Canelo departs. I think he understands what it's like to be the cash cow of boxing, to break out on your own. He did it. Mayweather did it. Usually the big superstars do it. And as far as Golden Boy goes, we'll see how things look for them in the future. They have some young prospects that are on the way up, but it's like G-Funky said, Canelo's in a really great position now to not only make multiple offers to different fighters, but also see where the offers come in from different networks. This is going to be a great opportunity for him to get a lot of exposure, because in this era where there are different networks, sometimes networks don't talk about particular boxers on the other side of the street. But you could see even with PBC that they were already excited about the prospect of Canelo coming over there. So he might get shine everywhere, and it might grow his overall brand.
Hey, Chicano, let me ask you this, man. Is Canelo following in the footsteps of Mikey Garcia?
I guess so. Mikey Garcia, he was the token Mexican that kind of went to one side, saw that the money was good, and then everybody else comes along.
I had to throw that one in there.
Well, I gotta say, man, there goes G-Funky, just treating him like the old Aldous son. You know what I mean? Like just has to, look at what he did. Like, Dad, he just learned how to drive. Like chill. You know what I mean? but look, all right. Eddie Hearn delivered here. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You know what I mean? He did spare us the Yildirim fight. Okay. He made this one. He say, hey, look, I got Callum Smith. I'm with the DAZN. We could still get Canelo on the DAZN. And hey, they landed the fight. Early Christmas present. December 19th. That's what it's all about. Okay. I want to. Do you see that right there? It says the pound for pound king is back. And it seems to me like every network wants to have the pound for pound guy, right? And the soldiers of the networks out there, all right, like to pick and choose who's the pound for pound guy. And it's there. It's always, what a coincidence. It's always falls on the network that they prefer. So the DAZN guys, oh, it's Canelo, right? The top rank guys, oh, it's Crawford. PBC guys, oh, it's Spence, right? And you see it here with the DAZN that they're kind of pushing it. The pound for pound king is back. I think it is fair to say that Canelo is the pound for pound king, and now that he's back, we can't really use, oh, he's going to be out for a year or two as a crutch to not give him that status if you were using that, Now, you could argue, now it just depends on how you do it. And here's what I want to say. I don't do pound for pound list. Okay? That's not what I do. I don't do that. Okay? When I pick a pound for pound guy, I go back to the original meaning, the original intent of that saying, right? Like, who's the best fighter in the sport, period, right? And right now, I think it's safe to say that Canelo has a really, really good argument over Crawford and Spence, right? I want to start with you, Chief Funky. Where do you stand on who do you believe is the best fighter in the world, and how do you think Canelo stands on there?
Yeah, it's I'm with you on the list, man. Now, I mean, in the past I've said, because it's just a thing to say, pound for pound, one of the best guys in the world. I have never officially made a list. In all the years I've been doing videos here on YouTube talking box, I've never made a list. But yeah, to go back to the true meaning of it, it was made for a guy like Sugar Ray Robinson, who was, fighting in different divisions and winning belts in different divisions back when, the competition was, there was one champion at that time. So, it's a lot harder to do those things. Shout out to Sugar Ray. I would have to say currently, yeah, I do think he has an edge over those guys, Spence and Crawford. He's put in a lot of work over the years, man. And I know I've been pretty critical of him in the past, and that's because the things that people are saying about him now, they were already saying that about him back then when he hadn't really fought anybody. So I'm like, I'm the guy like, well, what do you mean? Like like can we get this guy in there with some good comp first before we start calling him the best, and things like that. And people took offense to that, which is okay. I expect that from the fanboys, Now he's fought a lot of the guys that I've asked him to fight back in the day. Regardless of whether I think he won or lost those fights, at the end of the day, he got the W against those guys. So he's got the work, and it can't be denied. So yeah, I would say he's definitely got the edge over Crawford and Spence right now.
And Chicano Prophet, where do you stand on this? Do you agree with what it says in the banner there? The pound for pound king is back. Do you agree with that? I mean, surprise, surprise. Everybody brace themselves for the shocking response.
I know, right?
Like, everybody brace themselves. But how do you feel about this whole thing, man? Who is the best pound for pound? Like, who is the best fighter in boxing today, in your opinion?
Well, I'd have to agree with you guys. I'd say that Canelo is the best pound for pound boxer today. It's very subjective, and I appreciate where people come from their different perspectives. They talk about who's pound for pound, and I think if somebody does have Bud Crawford as their number one pound for pound fighter, I think they definitely probably have like a valid argument that I wouldn't contest. But if I'm looking at who I think the pound for pound is, I look at the resumes, I look at the accomplishments, and they are very close. But I look at the consistency and the rivalries that Canelo has had fighting the level of opposition that he's had in different weight classes and how successful he's been. To me, that puts him over the top. Canelo has a lot of skills that he doesn't utilize all the time. He has styles that he doesn't have to show now that he has a different style that he uses to come forward and to be a little bit more explosive. But he's got a very good back foot game, got a great counterpunching game. There's a lot of things that he doesn't show unless he needs to. And Bud Crawford, he does the same thing too. And the thing that I like about both of them is they both have tenacity. They're both ready to put the other guy down and to finish. So I think it is a bit of a coin flip, but I think Canelo, based on his resume, absolutely has to have the edge if we are talking about pound for pound. But I do think that people do make too much of it in general. But if I was going to call somebody pound for pound, I think Canelo's the number one currently.
Yeah, I don't get into lists, and I have many reasons for that. I find it hilarious when people are debating like whether a flyweight or a middleweight should be number 7 on a list. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's whatever to me. But I think most of the time, all of us can, not always, but we can look at certain fighters and say that's one of the best motherfuckers in boxing. And usually they're in one hand. You can count them. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to. And of those guys, who do you believe is the best? Look, Crawford is talent-wise, like eye test, is probably the most skilled fighter in boxing, in my opinion. All right. But Canelo's not that far behind, and he just has a better resume to kind of test how good he is, at least lately, And I'm sorry, but a knockout of Kovalev is more impressive to me than a knockout of Brook at this point. Okay? If Kovalev was done, why wouldn't Brook be done? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even make sense. All right? And Canelo was the smaller guy moving up to fight Kovalev. All right? I mean, not the other way around, so where like Kovalev didn't move down, in other words, to fight Canelo. He didn't move down a weight class. That was his weight class. Brook hadn't fought a welterweight since the Spence fight, if we keep it honest, right? And I'm not, and people need to understand, last week I said, don't give me credit for the prediction. It's an easy fight to call, right? And the reason I say these things, so when it comes down to making my arguments on certain things, I have a backbone to stand on, all right? So, I think it's safe to say, that it's either Crawford or Canelo, in my opinion. And I'm going to give the slight edge to Canelo right now. And I think a dominating win over Smith would only solidify it because he's already there, and I think this is a great opponent. It's yet another champion, another top fighter in a division that Canelo is fighting, and I think it's time to start giving this guy some credit. You know what I mean? So I'll kind of leave it at that, man. Let's move gears here and talk about ESPN a little bit. Okay, last weekend, just a couple days ago. Look, these are solid numbers, but I'm going to put some perspective for you. So there were sub 2 million, about 1.9 or 1.8 average for the boxing telecast. Okay. The Crawford, Brook, which only lasted 4 rounds, topped at over 2 million, right? The numbers are okay, but I need to remind people that the Teofimo Lopez fight with Lomachenko did almost 3 million. Okay. And it kept a much higher average throughout that whole telecast. And it was competing with, the championship games in baseball, okay, and a big, football game with Alabama. All right. So even with all that competition, it still outperformed. And Crawford alone got paid almost as much as Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez got paid together. Okay. Just him alone. Right. So almost, not quite, but almost. What's your reaction to the ratings, Chicano? Do you think those are pretty solid numbers? Are they disappointing? How do you see it?
I think that it's just about right. It makes sense to me. Everybody was looking forward to the Teofimo Lomachenko fight. All the hardcore fans, of course, were looking forward to that one, but I think it had some mainstream appeal as well with the undisputed marketing, as well as the highlights of both guys. It looked like a great clash. With the Crawford-Kell Brook fight, I think they had to sell it a little bit more. And on top of that, too, Bud Crawford has really never been a promotional type guy. Like, he's never kind of put himself out there to get known. There's a reason he doesn't do well on pay-per-view. And so these ratings, to me, they sound about right. Bud Crawford needs to do something to kind of get his exposure a little more out there to the mainstream public. So to me, they sound just about right.
That too cool brings up a good point. When we lost viewers because they were looking at replays for 30 minutes trying to screw Maloney. Yeah. We're going to touch on that later, but do you think that played a role, Chief Funky?
Absolutely. I know if I was a casual and I was deciding to just flip the channel over to watch boxing for once, and I see that happen, like, yeah, I'm out of there. I'm just being honest about it. If I was a casual, of course, I sat there and yelled at the TV and talked a little shit. But I think a lot of people probably did turn away at that point. Unfortunately, and I got a lot to say about that, so I'll wait on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the numbers are good, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people, because first of all, boxing comes on too late anyway. A main event, okay, at midnight or 1 a.m, like, that doesn't make sense. Okay, it just doesn't, because you have two people. You have people that they're gonna go to bed, they're gonna go get some sleep. Right. And then you have even though they shouldn't be doing it right now, but they're doing it anyway. They want to go out and party. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, hey, baby, just hold on. I'm waiting for the Crawford, Brook fight to start. You know what I mean? I'm going to pick you up in a little bit. Nah, dude, another dude's going to pick her up already. Okay. Well, while you're waiting for the boxing fight to start. All right. Believe me. All right. So like, this is disastrous how that went down for the ratings, but I got to say, over 2 million, it's okay, but I don't know that justifies 4 million for Crawford and 2 million for Brook. That's $6 million. Okay. $6 million off of the ESPN budget for boxing, and they got 2 million views. Like, I'm just telling you that just doesn't make sense. All right. And I get people saying, oh, but they deserve it. And I have nothing against them getting paid, but money's fight night, and if you overpay one guy, you're taking money from other guys, right? How many fights could have ESPN done paying guys $1,500,000? Like, think of all the fights he could have done and gotten close to those viewerships anyway. It like Maloney and Franco got almost the same number that the Crawford fight got. Just so, what are we justifying that amount of money in for? Okay, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to move on to this. Maloney, Franco. Chief Funky went nothing like the first fight because we didn't get to see enough of a fight. So we don't know. I think, in my opinion, a lot of people are jumping the gun like, oh, he figured out Franco. He was on his way to, like, he was winning early in the first fight too. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, in other words, we don't know how Maloney was going to handle that pressure in the second half of the fight. We still don't know that. Like, we don't have any answers. I think that calls for a third fight personally, especially with the controversy. They should definitely do another fight. Okay. But Chief Funky, what you make of the fight and the controversy, and just don't take 30 minutes reviewing it, please. Okay. Just as long as you don't take 30 minutes reviewing this shit, I'm good. But review it for us. How'd you see it?
Yeah, definitely won't take 30 minutes. That's for sure. Yeah, I scored the first, couple rounds. I had them both for Maloney. He got off to a hot start, no doubt about it. But like you said, it was the same way in the first fight. He got off early, so it kind of looked like round 13 and round 14 in a way, I guess. Franco came on late. The pressure got to Maloney, and the power started to sink in, and he was starting to fade a little bit. And he took a massive shot against the ropes in round 11, and the referee gave him a standing 8 count. So who knows? What could have happened? I mean, we could speculate all we want, but it's just, to me, 2 rounds is just not enough. 2 rounds is just not enough to say, oh, this guy was on his way to winning. Like that's going a little overboard. And then a freak thing happened here in this fight with this eye. I noticed right away when I was calling the fight, I'm like, damn, his eye is like already pretty swollen, pretty bad. I wonder what happened. I didn't really see anything land heavy, like nothing really big. Then I heard them say it was a headbutt. So I'm like, okay, it's an accidental headbutt. They stopped the fight. The doctor stops the fight at round 3. So, in my head, I'm already thinking, okay, if something like this happens before 4 rounds and they stop it, it's automatically a no contest or something like that. Whatever you want to call it. No decision, no contest, which is what I thought was going to happen. You see Maloney right away jump on the ropes celebrating like he thought he won the fight, and, I'm thinking in my head, like, no, like this is a no decision because it didn't go long enough. So, yeah, I mean, it's really bad to see boxing after having such good success on ESPN last month for something like this to happen. They have rules in play. They have a policy there when stuff like this happens, and they can't get it right. They're taking forever to look at the replay. I mean, this accidental headbutt or whatever happened here happened in the first round. It shouldn't take 30 minutes to review 1 round of boxing to see what happened, if it was a headbutt or if it was a punch. Now, the replays that they were showing live, you didn't see much there, man, to say, yeah, that definitely caused that swelling, There was a jab that got in to Franco's right eye that looked like it could have caused it. I mean, I'm not going to say 100% sure because honestly, I don't know, because there's videos out there that came out, after the main event was over, of where you see there was a clash of heads. Now, in that same video, I couldn't even see the time or the round where this footage was taken, but there was a clash, and apparently they saw 2. From what Robert Byrd said, he saw two headbutts. Where, I don't know. They weren't very clear on it. ESPN wasn't showing a whole lot of footage on it from whatever they saw. The referee, that is. So, yeah, it was really bad, man. Really, really bad on the commission's part. Really, really bad on ESPN to not give us a view. I mean, there's cameras everywhere in the bubble there. There's cameras everywhere. You telling me not one of these cameras could pick up whatever it was that caused the swelling? Like, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in boxing. And Bob Arum screaming and yelling, we got to get the hell out of Vegas after this, you know. You know, it was really bad. I have to say, really bad. And, you know, I do feel sorry for these two guys, especially a guy like Maloney who's coming all the way over from Australia, having to be away from his family, you know, and to have something like this happen. So, yeah, we got to see a third fight to see what's going to happen here. And who knows, maybe we'll see a fourth if Maloney wins, you know. But definitely need to see it again, that's for sure. And the commission there, you guys got to get your act together, man.
Let me put it this way, okay? Look, no matter what you called, like here's what the Nevada State Athletic Commission needs to understand, right? No matter which way you went, there was going to be controversy, right? The Garcia Campbell are saying they're trying to screw us. Yeah, Golden Boy out there, De La Hoya tweeting out they're trying to screw us and this, that, and third, right? The other side, you had Bob Arum over there throwing the red flag, like it's the NFL and shit. Okay, challenge flag and shit. Like, what are you doing, Bob? Go sit your ass down. You can't be behind the monitors and pointing at the monitors and talking to the commission, like trying to overturn this shit. Like, what are you doing? You're a promoter, dude. You're not an official. What are you doing? Like, he's actively trying to overturn a decision for his fighter. Now, I want people to understand this. Even if you do believe that Maloney got screwed, like, Arum has no business at the monitors, at the commission, telling them to overturn this shit. Like, you don't do that. Like, what are you doing? Can you imagine the NFL or NBA commissioner, like, coming down for a game, demanding that the refs review a call? Can you just imagine that? Like, imagine Roger Goodell, like, running to the refs in the field and like, no, that wasn't a touchdown. I demand you review that shit right now. Like what?
Yeah, or almost like Jerry Jones running down from the skybox and telling the referees, you know.
We're talking about the commissioner here. I mean, just the reality is this. Okay, and yes, I think it flashes Jerry Jones, actually. Thank God Cowboy Stadium's too big for him to run down. Like, you know what I mean? He's too old now, too. But Bob Arum, like, should not be actively trying to overturn a decision, even if he doesn't like it. Okay? That's not something he should be doing, right? Everybody know. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you believe, all right, that Arum would have done that if it was the other way around. Let's say that it was Maloney with a fucked up eye, right? And they were going to call it a no contest. Do you really believe that Arum would be arguing, no, that's a TKO. I demand you overturn it. Do you really believe he would be doing that?
No.
Nobody believes that. Nobody, right? Maybe 92 AKU, and that's it. All right? But, like, nobody believes that. Now, here's the other thing. So, I got to be honest. The internet has a way of, like, kind of like messing with you a little bit. So when I saw the fight, I'm like, there was no headbutt. And then people started releasing footage, right? Because the commission, like, talk about doubling down, because they doubled down, right? Like, oh, there was definitely a headbutt, but we didn't see the headbutt. When did the headbutt happen? Bert said there was 2 headbutts. No, there was 2, actually. Oh, so you're doubling down. And so there was 2 of them. Now, there's still frame photos where it looks like these dudes clashed heads and all this other shit, right? There could have been damage from the head, but when you watch it on film, it honestly doesn't look like a clash of heads, if I'm honest. It doesn't mean that there wasn't damage caused by that, right? I'm with G-Funky on this. I really don't know, right? But I know that the commission is wrong on a couple fronts, right? One, it's not that far-fetched for them to, like, not admit that the ref got it wrong, okay? Like, that's not far-fetched. Second, they come out and they say, oh, Franco, he had a damaged orbital bone. When have you seen guys in this weight class damage orbital bones? Come on. All the time. Well, what are you talking about? Like, all the time? Women damage orbital bones, okay? And women fights. You're telling me there's women out there that you think they hit harder than Franco and Maloney? All right? Are you kidding me? So the photos don't, Amilcar just said it, they don't tell the whole story. So we have to understand this. They were looking for 30 minutes. These motherfuckers were looking for a reason to keep the call. They weren't looking for the truth. They were looking for a reason to justify their call is what they were doing. Okay? And, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we don't need Bob Arum going there. You know, like everything was wrong with this picture. The promoters out there trying to overturn the call, actively trying to overturn it. Okay? That just looks wrong, right? We have the commission taking forever, right, to look and see if there was a headbutt or not. New rule, okay? New rule. For now on, if a ref says, hey, headbutt, accidental headbutt, you know what you do? You immediately have someone start looking into it, okay, in case you have to either overturn it or justify it. Immediately, right out of the bat, just boom, start looking at it, okay, at this frame, at this time in the round is when the headbutt happened. Write that down, cool, okay? So whatever it is, this should already be on it. Like boxing looks so like inept, you know, and slow and disorganized. Like we don't even know the rules of the replay, right? In the NFL, the rule stands unless there's enough evidence to overturn it, the call, right? And by the way, the NFL gets it wrong all the fucking time, right? I don't even want to hear it. Okay, I don't want to like for real, all right? They get calls wrong all the time. I'm a Buffalo Bill fan. They called an interception when it wasn't an interception, okay? The Bills player caught the ball, fell down to the ground with the Rams player. The Rams player snatched it on the ground. They called it from him, and they called it an interception, okay? So other sports get shit wrong all the time. But they don't take 30 minutes to make the call. And that's what looked bad. That's what made boxing look inept. And a lot of people looked at that and they said, my God, these people don't have their shit together. Okay. What's the rule of the replay? You should have rules and standards set already. Okay. If a ref calls a headbutt, boom, you should have somebody looking into it immediately. And if it gets overturned, they just tell the ref, hey, it wasn't a headbutt. So that's that. Right. And they tell the corners, and that's that. Right. And there's a knockdown, and just, you know, just automatically review all the knockdowns. That's all you got to do. Like, it doesn't take that long to do it, just in case. You should already be on it. That's what I got to say about that. All right. But look, man, lastly, I want to say this. It wouldn't have been that big of a deal that it didn't take 30 minutes. It just wouldn't. Like if they would have reviewed it 4 minutes later, the call stands, everybody would have moved on. But the fact that they kept us in suspense, okay, like wondering what's taking so long, and the ESPN commentary team did not help whatsoever, okay? I mean, boy, were they yelling out loud. I mean, Timothy Bradley was actively yelling towards the commission to overturn it, okay? I mean, holy shit. Like, I couldn't tell who was the top-ranked fighter and who was the Golden Boy fighter at all, actually, right? I mean, the whole thing, everybody looked bad in this case, but it doesn't take 30 minutes. You got 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes and tell me what's up. And that's it, all right? Simple as that. There's no crowd there. There's no one smirking at you in the background. There's no pressure from the arena. Like, come on. Seriously, all right? So that is that.
If I could add something before we move on, it seems like this is a new thing in Nevada, to just take your sweet time on anything like this. I mean, they're I don't know, are they still counting ballots there from the election? You know, I mean, this is crazy. We get that thing going on, and then now we get this 30 minutes to review one damn round. You know, like it's ridiculous, man. Nevada, get your act together, all right?
That's right. You get your shit together, bro. And then they got a team like the Raiders, like, you know what I mean? Like, everything is just fucked up in Nevada right now, bro. Like, especially Las Vegas, they don't got their shit together, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they're the home of the Raiders. You know, they can't properly count quickly enough ballots. Like, they're like one of the smallest states, but like California finished counting ballots first in Nevada. You know, like, you can't make this shit up. How's
Yeah.
California gonna beat you at a count? How does that happen, bro? You know, that doesn't make any sense. All right, but hey, you know. With that said, Crawford versus Brook. That was the main event, man. Over 2 million people watched it on ESPN. So it wasn't disastrous numbers, but I just hope, I wish it would have done better. But nonetheless, what you think of the fight, Chicano? What you think of this fight, man, and Crawford's performance?
I thought it was a fun fight to watch. We've had a string of good fights lately, and it's always a pleasure to watch Bud Crawford go in the ring and do what he does best. I didn't really know which Kell Brook we were going to see. I said earlier that we could see a fight where he's just kind of washed up, or we could see a fight where he's fighting at a high level and they both elevate each other. And, you know, it was, at first I thought it was a little bit of the latter. I liked what Kell Brook was doing early. He had a good jab, the range between the two, seeing them fight for it. It was excellent boxing, and it was good to see Terrance Crawford have to make adjustments as well. And I do think that Terrance Crawford did make those adjustments appropriately, and once he went to go and finish Kell Brook, it was over. I think that Bud Crawford he continues to do a good job of calling like lulling the opponent into thinking that they're safe when they're not. And when they get hurt, Bud Crawford absolutely knows how to finish. And it was very impressive. And I do question how good Kell Brook was going to hold up anyways. But to me, I wanted a little bit more. That ending let me down just a little bit. I felt like he had a chance to possibly get himself together a little bit more. But they called it. But I also understand why they did. Part of me wonders if Kell Brook was cashing out in the end, because at the end, it looked like he really didn't want to be there.
What are your thoughts on the fight, G-Fucky?
Well, I thought the fight was, not that bad for the first 3 rounds. Very, very tactical, very competitive. I did score the first 2 rounds to Brook, and then I gave round 3 to Crawford. But all those rounds were very close, competitive rounds. Both guys were doing some good things in there. Kell Brook looked pretty sharp, looked fast. He looked in great condition. I don't believe what's been said out there about him being, a weight drained fighter. Like I'm not gonna say that. I didn't see a weight drained fighter out there. I've seen guys that have been weight drained, and you could just see it right away. I mean, from the opening bell, you could just tell that these guys were just good done. I mean, a couple examples: Oscar De La Hoya versus Pacquiao. I mean, the guy had 0 moments in that fight. Another one more recent than that would be Chavez versus Canelo. You could just see that Chavez was dead from it trying to make 164. The guy couldn't even let his hands go. He was basically a punching bag in there. That was not the case here with Kell Brook. Kell Brook was in there and was doing some good things. He looked fast. He was landing good right hands on Crawford. So I'm not buying that. Now, as far as the knockout goes, I do agree with Chicano a little bit. I feel like it was a little premature. Although I do think that Crawford ends up stopping him anyway. But we talked about it on the post-fight on my channel about how if this is the last little go-around for Brook, maybe you give him a chance to swing away and maybe try to even it up or something, Or then, like he said at the end, I want to go out on my shield. But, we all understand why the referee stepped in. It's his job to protect the fighter. Now, with the referee, I want to say this. With that first knockdown, Kell Brook stumbling. He can't find his legs. He falls into the ropes. Now, Tony Weeks literally dodges out of the way. He's like this in the replay, out of the way of Kell Brook because he's stumbling. He falls into the ropes. Like immediately, he should be calling a stop to the action and giving him a count right there because the ropes held him up. That's a knockdown according to the rules. Nothing can hold you up.
Right.
Instead, he lets Crawford run right in and land about 3 shots while he's against the ropes when action should have been stopped there,
Like, it almost looked like Drago Creed for a moment, right? Like,
a little bit, but it was a beautifully timed shot by Terrance Crawford, and you could kind of see him setting it up from the prior round 3, where they're doing this thing where Crawford's again, he's in the southpaw position. and Kell Brook is in the orthodox, and he's just putting that hand out there, touching him, you know, and then they're touching gloves at the same time, and it's like you could just tell right there that you know, one guy's like, okay, I want to see what you're going to do with this. I'm just going to put it out there. Every now and then I'm going to throw it hard, but I'm going to see how you react to it, what you do. He was getting a read on Kell Brook. But when he dropped him in the 4th round with that little half hook that he threw, that or like D-Style likes to call it, the anchor punch, he was in the middle of throwing a straight right hand, which is what you want to do against a southpaw, you know, and that punch was landing in the fight. The problem is he just didn't expect to get hit with something that hard from the lead hand. And that's something that I had to explain to a lot of friends that were texting me after the fight that are casual fans. You know, they're like, how could a jab put this guy down? You know, and I'm like, well, you got to think about it like this. That's the power hand in front. He's naturally a right-handed guy, but he's got the right hand in front. So that's where the power is right there. So yeah, that's the punch that's going to hurt him more than the left in that position. So, you know, I just had to explain it to him that way. But when you get hit like that, when you're in the middle of a punch, and believe me, I know this from experience, because when I used to train as a teenager, the guys that I trained with were a lot better than me, because I wasn't training to be a boxer. I was just training, you know, to stay in shape and things like that. These guys were actually training to be fighters, you know. So when I would spar with them, I'm telling you, these guys would fucking hit me, and I did not expect to get hit. Let me tell you, man, that shit hurts. Like you just you're just like, damn, like you get hit and you're like, holy shit, like I did not expect to get hit at that time, you know. And you could see the look on Brook's face in the corner. He's like shaking his head, like, you know, like, damn, like, like I didn't expect that, you know. So, you know, he was very, very hurt. And, you know, Brook, I don't know what he's gonna do, man. Maybe we'll get that Khan fight. That's a fight that a lot of people over in the UK have been talking about for a while. So we'll see what happens. But shout out to Terrance Crawford, man. Nice knockout for him.
For sure. Look, I think it's important to note that I'm looking at a lot of post-fight analysis, and I just strongly disagree with a lot of people's take out there. Okay, if you believe that Kell Brook was beating the shit out of Crawford, and then Crawford just happened to land a big punch and knocked him out, I mean, you're entitled to believe that. Like, if you really believe that, you know what I mean? Because those things can happen. Like, a guy can be getting beat up, and then he lands a big shot and knocks the guy out. You know what I mean? That could happen. But at this high level of boxing, it's hard to knock guys out. Like you don't just knock a guy out. Like, more often than not, you have to set it up. And I think there's enough evidence to suggest that Crawford set it up, right? And all you got to do is look at the fight again, right? When he was fighting, okay, from the orthodox, you know, position, okay, you know, Kell Brook was, okay. I'm sorry, Crawford. God damn, I mix up those names a lot, okay. But he was trying to land the right hand, okay, on Kell Brook from the orthodox position. He did not come out southpaw. All right, he just didn't. All right, so he's orthodox, and the right hand's back here. He's shooting the right, and he's missing the right hand. All right, he gets a little closer in the second round, but he's still off. Okay, he then moves to southpaw, which means it's now his lead. Okay, Crawford. Now Crawford has more of like a cat posture, like this. All right, when he's boxing him. All right, and he's teasing the left at Kell Brook. Kell Brook is shooting straight rights, right? Now that Crawford is you know, southpaws are open because of their positioning to the right hand, and that's what he was landing on him, right? Now, a couple times he got caught, okay, and credit to Brook for landing those, but what Crawford was doing, it was setting up a trap, right? That's what he was doing, right? So let's look at this from Kell Brook's, you know, point of view here, okay? Kell Brook is fighting orthodox, all right? Chief Funky, what foot is that when you're fighting orthodox?
The left.
Left foot. So he's like this, okay? Crawford is southpaw, which means they're mirroring each other. Like if an orthodox person stands in front of a mirror, the image is southpaw. Okay, so just think of it this way. This is Cal Brook. Like G Funky said, they're touching gloves. All right, so he could feel the glove of Crawford. All right. However, and he's looking at the left hand of Crawford. Right. It's like, I see your left hand. I could feel your right. Right. And I got my right here. Right. He has everything covered. The foot is in the right position. Right. He's not like everything. All the bases to him are covered. Cal Brook did not make any, technical mistakes here. Right. However, right here, from his vantage point, right, as he stands, that vision is blocked. Okay, he's blocking his own vision that way, and it's only relevant for one thing, right? When someone's taught to throw a jab, they're specifically taught to not extend the elbow out. Okay, because you telegraph it that way, right? You extend it out and you shoot it. Well, an experienced boxer is not going to be throwing jabs like this. Okay, so in Cal Brook's mind, he's thinking, Crawford, he looks like this to me, right? So his elbow is tucked in, so he could shoot a jab off of that. Okay, you want to have the elbow tucked in to shoot the jab, right? Crawford is doing this a couple times. He extends the elbow out, and he's noticing something. His vantage point is blocked. He can't see the elbow sticking out. How is that relevant? Well, that's relevant because Crawford, who was missing the right hand by a little bit in the first 2 rounds when he was orthodox, okay, is now southpaw, which means now his right is his lead hand, and he's positioned himself in a way where now he's shooting the right the same way you shoot a straight right. Okay, even though he's in the southpaw position now, right, Crawford? Even though he's in that position now, he's put himself in position like this to just throw it. Okay, no wind up, nothing. Just bam, a quick straight punch. That's a straight punch. He stepped on that punch. In fact, if you look at the footage again and watch Crawford from the waist up, don't look at the feet. It literally looks like he's throwing a right hand from the orthodox position. That's what it looks like. Okay, if you look at it from the waist up, right, that's the punch he caught him with. Now, I don't know if it was designed to knock him out, but it was definitely designed to land, and it definitely shows me that he had the timing down. Okay, he knew everything about Cal Brook at that point. Crawford knew, the timing of the punch, which is why, Brook just collapsed 2 inches away from landing his straight on Cal Brook. He literally just collapses and falls over to the ropes, right? It was a thing of beauty, but he knew when he was going to throw the punch. He knew what Cal Brook had for breakfast. He knew what all the secrets about Cal Brook. He knows who the first love of his life was. He knew everything about Cal Brook at that point. Okay, and then you look at Cal Brook from Cal Brook's point of view. He's got the glove like this. Okay, he can't see the elbow out. He's thinking, well, I'm touching your glove, so you can't really jab from here to me. Right? And if you do, I'll just take the jab, so I'm good, right? I'm looking at your left, and I've already hit you a couple times with my straight, so I'm going to shoot it, right? Cal Brook had no idea he got hit until he knew, right? So if you look at him again when he's against the ropes and 20 weeks is counting, Cal Brook looks hurt and he looks confused. He's like he doesn't know what happened. Well, he's like, what the fuck happened? I was about to land a beautiful punch on Crawford. I felt his lead hand, and I was looking at his left. What the fuck happened? Well, you got God. You didn't know. Why would Cal Brook be extending his elbow out like that? That's irresponsible. You're taught not to do that. So I don't have a reason to look at it. You know what I mean? I'm blocking my shot. I'm getting ready to, if you throw a hook, you can't throw a hook because you got to loop your hook. I'm going to beat you with my straight, right? And I got my glove here ready anyway in case you do throw it, right? So at the end of the day, that's what went down. He was timed. He was figured out. And if he didn't knock him out at that point, well, he already had him timed. I think the beating was going to start at that point. I think Cal Brook was going to take a severe beating moving forward because he already had his straight, timed. All right. So, and keep in mind, he never had to take the uppercut out of the holster. He didn't really have to use his hook that much. Okay. There's a lot of things Crawford didn't have to take out of the holster. He still had more tricks in the bag that, quite frankly, he didn't need to use. All right. Also, the reason that punch was so devastating, as Ali would explain, was, let me tell you something. Brook positioned himself, right? And he generated force with his feet to throw a straight. Okay? That, along with a punch coming your way, which was thrown like a straight, I mean, that's high velocity right there. That's like, as Ali would explain, two cars crashing into each other. Only once the glove and once the face. I'd rather be the glove. Okay? So, with that said, I do agree with G Funky. That should have been, he should have been given a count immediately when he stumbled against the ropes. And you could argue it was stopped a little early, but I'm okay with the stoppage. He was just getting pummeled at that point. And Cal Brook didn't complain about it. You know what I mean? Like Cal Brook, I think he was good, to be honest. I want to ask you guys this, though. Take your $2 million and go back to Sheffield. Chief Funky, what are your thoughts on Joe Tessitore? Talking tough, bro. Like I don't know, like shades of like Jim Lampley, right? I don't know.
I mean, I've only heard Lampley get on something like that just one time. That was when Barrera fought Hamed, and he kind of said something about Hamed's beliefs during that fight. But this is pretty bad. This is up there. To say, Mr. Brook, take your $2 million and go back to Sheffield, that's fanboy shit. I mean, that's right out of fan book, the fanboy 101 book there, to say something like that on the air. Like, I mean, we all understand Crawford is the home fighter. He's the house fighter. We get that, but take your $2 million and go back to Sheffield. Like, I mean, wow, that's just crazy. And imagine if it was somebody from another country, from Mexico, from Africa, from wherever, like, unbelievable that he said that. I don't know if there's going to be if they're going to hold him accountable for what he said there, but that's just very disrespectful to a fighter like Kell Brook and any fighter, And like I said, it's very fanboyish, and he should be ashamed of himself for doing that. That's really all I got to say about that, man.
Like here's what I'll add to that. Good point, Chief Funky, and to add to your point about, look, I mean, the reason it's not a big deal for some people, it kind of maybe went over their heads. Look, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, like I'm not going to cry about it, but, he did get $2 million, I think he'll be okay. You know what I mean? But, like, if this was a third world country and he said something like, go back to, take your, Chocolatito, take your $1 million and go back to Nicaragua. Like, you know what I mean? Like, God damn. Like, you know what I mean? Manny Pacquiao, take your money and go back to the Philippines. It wouldn't have been received very well. Like, I'm just being honest. It wouldn't have been received very well. Right? The fact that England is not a third world country and stuff like that, people are like, whatever. But at the very least, it was very unprofessional of Joe Tessitore to say that. You know what I mean? First of all, like, you're not the one that beat him up. Like, you know what I mean? If Crawford said that, I'll be okay. Well, hey, Crawford beat him up. Like, you didn't beat him up. You didn't do anything. Like, yeah, Crawford, go back to Sheffield. Tuh. Like, God damn. But Chicano, what you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was tasteless as well. When he said it, I wasn't sure if it was one of those like preloaded comments because it sounded like it. I wasn't sure exactly what he was implying. I wasn't sure if he was saying like, you just came here to make your money and then leave, like to cash out, or if he was just insulting him, saying, and take your ass back home to where you came from because this is America. Like, either way, I didn't really care for it. I hope he gets spoken to. I don't think that commentators should be speaking to fighters like that, especially somebody like Kell Brook. I found him to be a very respectful person when they were in the lead up to the fight, as far as doing interviews and even afterwards. He seems to be a classy guy to me, so he didn't really deserve that, in my opinion.
I mean, look, how would we feel like if, you know, an American gets beat in England and, hey, go back to, you know, El Paso, Texas, and take your money with you? Like, God damn. That's not a very welcoming message. You know what I mean? So they're getting a little too comfortable. Look, if a fighter says that, hey, I think it's fair game, that the fighter fought him. You know what I mean? If the members of the team maybe say that, okay, you know, but I'm just saying. All right. Could you just imagine, like, I'm not even going to go. Like, there's just some examples I can give you that it just wouldn't sound right. Okay. It just wouldn't. All right. So I'm just saying. All right. But anyway, I mean, that's just a side note. Joe Tessitore, you know what makes it worse to me? It's just that he's not known for that. That's not a Joe Tessitore thing. But I could tell, like, you know, he's getting comfortable, you know, like he's like, I don't know, man. That was a little too Jim Lambley for me, you know? So it is what it is. All right. This is the last year of Crawford's contract. Arum went with the Athletic and was quoted saying, you know, he flipped the question on them, like, the question is, should we keep Crawford? We're losing money with Crawford. We're not making any money with Crawford. Man, is that, like, I don't know, man. That's not becoming of a promoter of your own fight. Why would you bury, for those that know about wrestling, right? Why would you bury your own fighter? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this is, I can't believe, like, Arum said that. I don't know if maybe he meant to say that off record and they put it on the record. I have no idea. I don't. They just, you know, some of his interviewers, they have a way of making these guys feel comfortable, and then they say things that maybe they wouldn't usually say, but nonetheless, it's out there. Is there a method to the madness, G-Funky, with him saying that about Crawford?
Maybe Mr. Bob Arum, Mr. Top Rank, maybe he just sees the writing on the wall with Crawford. Maybe he sees, you know, I'm not going to be able to keep this guy, re-sign him, whatever. So might as well, I don't know, throw him under the bus, I guess. I mean, this is not the first time he's done this with his fighters. And this is not the first time that a guy of Crawford's skill has left him. I mean, let's just go back, you know, to the 90s, I guess, or early 2000s. You can see Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya both walked away from Top Rank. And this is the first time that he's buried one of his fighters. I mean, look what he did to Guillermo Regan now after he beat Nonito Donaire in dominating fashion. You know, I don't know what to do with this guy. I can't sell him to anybody. I don't know what to do. You know, so it's really not a surprise to me that he said something like this. If I'm Crawford, I'm like, okay, whatever. Then if you're losing money with me, then hey, let me walk. Let me become a free agent and just do what I want to do. Or if he wants to sign to PBC, if he wants to sign to DAZN or whatnot, you know. But there's no way that I would be going back to Top Rank if somebody said that about me. Yeah, I mean, that's just me personally. But it's not a surprise, and it's not the first time he's done something like this.
Well, what are your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, you know, as far as Bob Arum's comments go, I think it's just a case of him being an old man. He's too old to mince words. I think we're getting a lot of honesty out of Bob Arum in his older age, and it's kind of refreshing to hear that what he has to say. And I'm sure from his perspective, he feels like he is losing money on Crawford, and he is kind of running out of options. You know, I've looked forward to seeing Crawford fight in all of his fights, but I did feel like in his last few fights, you know, they've been kind of having to like scrounge up opponents. They're not top tier opponents. Kell Brook wasn't ranked top 10 in 154 or 147. I really didn't think much of the Amir Khan fight either. I do think that Bud Crawford and Bob Arum are open to making money together. In the post-fight interview, they made it sound like, hey, man, if we can get that Pacquiao negotiations going for a fight overseas and we can all make that money together, let's get it going. But I could also see it being an opportune time for them to part ways if Bud Crawford wants to go over to the PBC side and try to get closer to that Errol Spence fight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, PMC says, I could have built a new house in Beverly Hills with the money we lost in the Crawford's last fights. I mean, why? Like, I'm trying to figure out why he's saying this. You know what I mean? Like, what good could come out of it? You know what I mean? You know, I just don't understand why he would say it, even if it's true. You know? So, I mean, that's my only thing. But I think it is time for Crawford. I mean, it's better for us as boxing fans anyway, right? For him to move, and you know, all the smoke's on PBC anyway for a welterweight. What do you think, G Funky?
Yeah, that is where all the best competition is at 147. And you know, the thing is this with Top Rank, like, I mean, you're complaining about losing money, but at the end of the day, did you try to work business with PBC to try to make a big fight? I mean, I don't think he would have lost money if they say he even threw him in there with a Keith Thurman, a Sean Porter, a Danny Garcia, an Ugas. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Ugas fight, he might have complained about that one. But, I mean, look at yourself at the end of the day. Did you try to make any of these fights happen? Arum, you know, hey, you decided not to go over there and do business with Al Heyman, and you want to put him in there with guys like Mean Machine that no one's ever heard of. I mean, the guy's name looks like a damn Wi-Fi password, like the generic ones that come with your Wi-Fi. You know, no one's heard of this guy. Chicano probably just said the Amir Khan fight. Like, no one was interested in that. It's really a lot of it has to go on him too, man. He's got to hold himself accountable too for this.
Right. Yeah, and like Mexico native just said, if he's losing money, isn't that his fault? He's a promoter.
Yes.
That's why you convince guys to sign with you when you sign with you. Like, I'm the right guy for the job. I'm going to be your promoter. It's your job to get the guy out there. You know, at the end of the day, like, you sign a deal with him that he's going to get so much, and you felt you could promote him to where it would justify that amount. Like, it's your fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day. So, plus it's ESPN paying him right now anyway, so I don't know what you're bitching about. You know? Like, you know what I mean? Like what are we doing here? Like, I get that he lost money on the pay-per-view, but nobody told you to put Crawford Amir Khan on pay-per-view.
Right.
You know, you paid Amir Khan $8 million to fight Crawford. Whose fault is that? Okay? Wow. You could have paid a shitload of dudes $8 million to fight Crawford, right? And it would have sold more, and it would have done better. Which brings me to this. What's Crawford's next move? Chicano, what do you think his next move should be here?
I think Crawford's next move should be to try to get that Manny Pacquiao fight. I think he brings a lot more leverage to a Errol Spence negotiation if he could win that fight. If he beats Pacquiao, finally the torch is passed properly to somebody. Bud Crawford is going to have 2 belts, and he's going to be more well known too to everybody. And so I think if he went over to the BBC side with that win and with the most money, I'm sure that would be the most beneficial thing for him to do. So I'm sure he's waiting for that fight. That's the fight he said he wanted, and it makes sense to me. If he can't get that fight and things fall through, then he needs to head over to the PBC side, start getting loud. Even if he had one fight before the Spence fight, there's no reason they can't start making some excellent fights right away. So I think he just needs to follow his natural line of thinking, and hopefully we'll see some good fights from him next year.
Look, I would tell. This is what I would do if I'm Crawford. I mean, if you don't learn from your predecessors, when will you learn? You know what I mean? I mean, come on. How did even Manny Pacquiao? I mean, I want everybody to think about this, okay? Like, Arum didn't know what to do with him. Like, I mean, you had Crawford right there, right? He was having a hard time. He couldn't give you the Pacquiao fight when Pacquiao was on Top Rank. Just think about that, okay? Like, I don't care what the reasoning is. He didn't get it done, right? So, what makes you think he's going to get you the Pacquiao fight now? If he couldn't get it to you when he was on Top Rank, like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but when Pacquiao left Top Rank, okay, what happened? He got the Thurman fight. You know what I mean? And look at that. That was a big win for Pacquiao. That was a successful pay-per-view. I mean, he wasn't even putting Pacquiao on pay-per-view anymore because he didn't know what to do, right? I mean, they did, what was it, like 600,000, something like that, him and Thurman?
I was going to ask you that question. I couldn't remember, but I know it was
Yeah,
pretty good numbers.
yeah, it was pretty good numbers. They made money. Like PBC got it done at the end of the day. Like sometimes you got to set your feelings aside of how you feel about this promoter, that promoter. Look, situations just matter, right? And right now, Crawford, you're in a situation where just put yourself in position to call the shots. Okay? Look at Canelo. He got himself out of the Golden Boy thing. And guess what? All of a sudden, the zone's like, oh yeah, we can make the Callum Smith fight. All of a sudden, they can make the fight, right? It was not a premier opponent before, but now it is, right? You got to put yourself in position to make these fights. Doesn't mean you don't have to work with Top Rank. Like you could tell Bob, hey, tell you what, I'll be a free agent. If you can make a fight happen, I'll do a one-fight deal with you. We can make it happen, right? But if it means you don't work with Bob Arum, then guess what? Then you don't work with Bob Arum. If you got to work with PBC, work with PBC. Fight to fight basis. That's all you got to do. Don't sign a long-term deal with a dude that's openly saying he doesn't know what to do with you, and all you do is lose the money. Okay? I don't know if that's a good idea. And you're not getting any younger, right? Like, I'm not even sure you should sign a long-term deal with PBC. Just do a fight-to-fight deal. You know? That's what I'll say, you know. And yes, Pacquiao, you got a big payday scene with Adrian Broner. You know what I mean? If I'm Crawford, man, I'm trying to make a Keith Thurman fight. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make maybe Ugas. Like there's guys you could get in the ring with you that are not named Spence that are easy to make, and you could add to your resume at welterweight and get people talking more about that fight. But we'll see how that all that plays out. All right. In more important news, guys. All right. So, man, I couldn't believe it when this happened, but Chavez Jr.'s fight got postponed. You know what I mean? I was looking forward to the fight. All right. Like, no, I was looking forward to the fight. And so they're going to postpone it till next week. You know what I mean? So we're not going to be able to see Chavez Jr. for another week, guys. So hang in there. Okay?
Oh, God, why? Why?
So
when it rains, it pours.
yeah, like you know what I mean? Like I can't believe we have to wait this long. You know. But Chief Funky, what are your thoughts on having to wait on Chavez Jr.?
I'm gonna try to get through this without laughing, man. But fuck Chavez Jr. All right, I don't give a shit what this guy does. All right, I wouldn't see this guy fight anybody. I mean, I don't even know who this guy's fight. I mean, he just fought recently, didn't he? And he quit, and then now he's fighting again. Like, I mean. I mean, I think they're going to make prop bets on this guy now to see what round is he going to quit in. And not what round he gets knocked out in, but what round does he decide to just stop fighting for no reason. What color is his hair
going to be on fight night? You know what I mean? Like,
this guy
is saying, man, this was something to look forward to, bro. Like you know, Chavez Jr. fight night. You know what I mean? Now would have got anything.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man, but this guy is just, man, wow. I mean,
Chicano, talk to us, man. Are you disappointed? Like you got to wait a whole another week for Chavez.
Disappointed, man. To be honest, I didn't even know he was fighting this weekend. Chavez Jr., man, what a disappointment. I didn't know he was in that much of a rush to go in and quit again against somebody. It's been kind of embarrassing. The only entertaining thing that I've seen is him and Berlanga going at it over Instagram. Like, that's the most entertaining thing I've seen come out of Chavez Jr. He's a disgrace, and man, it's kind of fun to make fun of him, but now it's just getting sad. Like, I just wish he would just go away. That's what I really want. He's embarrassing his dad. I see his dad always there trying to give him advice on what to do. His dad has more energy in the back locker room than he does. So I hope for the sake of the Chavez name, hope he calls it quits after this next fight.
Hey, look, man. There are some fights. I know Conor Ben will be fighting on the zone against Sebastian Formella, 10 rounds at welterweight. So you guys can check that out if you have the zone. You know what I mean? But other than that, man, we don't really have like a lot of any big notable fights. I'm kind of disappointed that boxing didn't continue that the thunder, man. That energy of these big fights and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that, G Funky? I mean, it looks like we're not going to have much this weekend.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a drag. I mean, we've been so busy since September. But yeah, it does suck. But hey, next week we got a couple of big fights, I guess. Jacobs and Rosado and Tyson, Roy Jones. I mean, wow. I mean, you talk about some good shit, man. That's some tie off, and I mean, find a vein right there, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, man. Hey, I mean, I look forward to fight week personally. As who doesn't, right? But if it wasn't for the Canelo fight, I probably already canceled the zone by now. I mean, what do they have to offer? You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to keep paying $20 a month till that fight, really. So
they got a pretty cool archive. I mean, just yesterday I watched Linares get beat up by Cano in one round. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Hey, but hey, this. I mean, I'm not gonna pay $20 a month for an archive. Like, I'm just not. But I get it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. We've pretty much gone through everything here. Okay. Andrew Charles says, "Guess I gotta cancel my invitation to the Chavez Jr. fight party." Absolutely.
Yeah, that's off.
Do you think we get the Berlanga fight, G Funky? You think it's gonna
No.
happen?
No, not unless Berlanga is desperate. That beating Chavez Jr. or just fighting him does nothing for him, really. The only thing that I would be interested in that fight is to see if he can make it out the first round without quitting before he gets knocked out. That's really the only thing that I'd be interested in. But yeah, I don't think that's a fight that Berlanga should be looking for.
I mean, look, I want to make sure that everybody understands the great fight week coming. And forgive me in advance if you know who this guy is, but I don't. Okay, but look at this, guys. You see that right there, G Funky?
Trying to see. Can you highlight it again?
Right here. You see that? So clitoris pendarvis, baby. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So if you're looking forward to some boxing,
What's his nickname? The
clitoris
G-spot
pandemic, baby. You know what I mean? Clitoris pelvis or some shit. What is this dude's name? Who is this guy?
Wow, what a name.
So Jason Bacon's going to be fighting clitoris pelvis. All right. Shouldn't this person be fighting the women's division? No? Okay, all right. That joke,
yeah. Maybe.
That joke, that'll get us kicked off Pandora probably, but it's okay. Right? But one more thing I want to talk to you guys about. This is kind of impromptu, so forgive me. And I want to know what the chat thinks. I want to know what you guys think. Okay. First of all, you're looking forward to clitoris pelvis fighting. That's number one. But second, all right. So there's been this new trend going on, and I'm seeing all the women fighters do this a lot, where we want equal pay, right? So I know it's controversial and all that, but what do you make of that? What do you make of all these examples of, oh, look at this female basketball player has almost identical accomplishments as LeBron James, but she's not even making 1% of what LeBron James makes. That's not fair, right? And then in boxing, it seems to me like even when people mean well, I'm not an Eddie Hearn fan at all, right? But he comes out and he does an interview saying, I'm trying to put, these women, I want to get them paid. So I'm trying to, put them out in the limelight more and get more attention so women's boxing can grow. And the female fighter out of New York, I forget her name. she came out and she made a big deal about it. Like what do you mean more limelight? Like I only got paid 3,000, and the guy, on the next that fought after me made like 100,000. That's not fair. And you didn't say he needed promotion. They don't say that about the men. The men don't need to get more promotion to get paid and this, that, and the third. And I just feel like I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, personally. But I want your guys' take on this. Let's start with you, G Funky. What is your take on this whole, equal pay in boxing? Yes, Heather Hardy. Yes, Santel. Heather Hardy. I mean, she went in on what I believe, like, he had good intentions. Like, Eddie Hearn is promoting Katie Taylor. He's promoting a lot of female fighters and getting them paid, actually. You know what I mean? And she's from New York, yes. But what are your thoughts on that, G Funky?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I understand the woman's perspective, but at the same time, they have to realize that if you don't generate money or interest, then then the money's not going to be there to pay you that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, even in men's sports, like we brought up the LeBron James. We can go all the way back to the early 80s when the NBA, well, let's just say the late 70s when the NBA was struggling, and then a guy like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird come in from college, and they kind of generate a lot of interest, which means money. So people become more interested in the NBA, more tickets being sold, and that means more money to get paid. Then a few years later, you get a guy like Michael Jordan come in, then it just blows up out of this world, So there's always going to be those type of, like, I guess you want to say, trendsetters in each sport that kind of generate more interest in the sport. We haven't really seen anything like that since Layla Ali, I guess you could say. She came in, she was real charismatic, not only because of the way that she fought, but because she carried the name of her father, which, is one of the most famous fighters of all time, if not the most famous fighter of all time. So something's either something like that's got to happen, or you got to be like a Chrissy Martin, who was always in exciting fights, always knocking her opponents out, or at least being in good, entertaining fights. Those things just have to happen, in order for more money to come in. So, until that happens, it's got to be, that's the way it's going to be. Now, I know that we've joked about this before with the female fight a couple weeks ago, looking at the pictures of the women at the weigh-in and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if that's done with the intent to try to get more eyes on the fight or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, personally, I wouldn't tell a woman to do that if that's just the way that I am. But something's got to, somebody's got to come in and try to change the game for the women, and I don't know who that is right now currently, or maybe somebody in the future, but I think that's got to happen.
It's like, she is getting a lot of attention, she's the first woman to headline on Showtime and stuff like that, but she doesn't have a lot of competition. You know what I mean?
That's the thing too. Yeah. They might have to do like a lot of the cross promotion, like we've seen, like Floyd do. I know there was always talk. I mean, DAZN was talking about having Canelo fight UFC fighters. Maybe Shields had to fight a Cyborg or the other chick from the UFC. I can't remember her name, but maybe that will do something. I don't know, man. Right. I'm just thinking of stuff.
well, here's a couple of things, and I don't know how much you want to chime in, Chicano, but before I go, but what are your thoughts on that? Like, just in general,
I think it's like G Funky says. I think the women need to generate, and it's also about the gate and how many eyes they can get on the screen when they're fighting. I do think that if they are going to make a move to kind of get more pay, as far as equal pay goes, right now would be a good time with no live gate going on. Women's boxing just isn't as popular as men's boxing, just like a lot of the other sports that we see. And they have to make a name for themselves. I do think that it would be good when there's people like Eddie Hearn making an effort to kind of make women's boxing more mainstream. But the women have to do it themselves, and they got to generate their interest. And I've seen them try it in different ways. Katie Taylor tries to be like a good role model for people. Clarissa Shields is a little bit more aggressive. She comes out saying, she can beat up men. I like both styles, and I like following women's boxing, but I'm like the only fan that I know around me that follows women's boxing. None of the other hardcores do around me. None of the casuals do at all. So they got a long ways to go, I think, before they can start talking about equal pay. And we already discussed that fact that they don't do 3-minute rounds or 12-minute rounds. So they're kind of in a delicate position. Like they can't really pipe off to somebody like Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, if they want to keep getting promoted, because there are promotional companies like the PBC who don't even really make an effort at all. And who knows, maybe they see it as a losing proposition and not worth investing in. I mean, they're not really making a statement on it, but they have to all tread carefully, in my opinion.
Right. Now, it is a sensitive topic because there's a lot of things that people consider non-starters, right? And I don't believe in non-starters if we're going to have a serious discussion about it. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like, look, I want women's boxing to thrive, okay? I want all of boxing to thrive. But the reality is, even before we even get to the women, boxing has a lot of problems that needs to get fixed. You know what I mean? And it is top heavy as far as who gets paid. So any card you could look at, it's not exclusive to women. Like if, you know, when Mayweather would fight, he would be making like 50 million, his opponent 5 million. And then like everyone else in the card, you know, like the lower you go, guys are making 3,000, you know, like $10,000. Like that's not unique to the women. Like a lot of boxers, a lot of journeymen, a lot of guys on their way up are not swimming in money. You know what I mean? It's not like there's just money everywhere. Okay, as it is, which is why I have an issue when guys get paid too much, because that's taking money away from the other fighters that need it more, because there's only so much in the budget for fighters. You know what I mean? So if one guy is getting 30% of the pot, that doesn't leave a lot for everybody else, right? So, look, obviously, you know, I want women to get paid, but I want all boxers to get paid, right? We can't just tell promoters, hey, you got to pay those women millions of dollars because equal rights. Like, oh, that's not, it doesn't work that way. And I'm not even saying all women are asking for that. I'm not saying that. Okay. But as it's been said, like women's boxing needs to get more popular for women to get paid, you know? So in MMA, like Ronda Rousey came around and women's MMA became more popular. Okay. Also, you can't be solely dependent on the male boxing fan to do it all, right? Like women outnumber men in this world. I don't know if people know this. Okay. Like, what about all the women boxing fans? Shouldn't we call them out on supporting women boxers too?
Yep.
Like, I don't feel like they get called out at all. Canelo has a bunch of fangirls. I don't see them like promoting, you know. So like Ryan Garcia, De La Hoya, they attracted women. So it's not impossible for women to follow boxing. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like we can't just expect men to carry the whole load, you know. So I want to see women get paid, and it's going to take a trendsetter. It's going to take someone that takes women's boxing to a whole another level. That means getting similar ratings to the men, right? Like it's going to take that. It's going to take, you know, getting people to tune in and watch. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take, right? All those Ryan Garcia fangirls, how about they watch the women too and stop saying it's all sexist? Oh, it's all the men. What about all the women that don't support women's boxing? You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So look,
my girlfriend, she doesn't like it.
So like, you know, everything's blame the man. Oh, it's the men's fault. Oh, the man don't want to support it. You man, like, dude, like I've been watching boxing my whole life, right? And if I give you my top 5 favorite fighters, they're all male, right? Like I don't believe women are at that level yet in terms of skill, in terms of, and I have the numbers for it, like in terms of attracting the masses. Okay. Not in the States, right? I'm sure in other countries they do well, and I want them to do well, but not everything is sexist. Not everything is an agenda against women. You know what I mean? Like, are there sexists in boxing? Yes. Okay, let me just put that out there. All right. But that's not the driving force as to why women are not making the same money that the top heavy boxers are making, right? Like you get paid for what you know, generate. Yes, LeBron James makes more money than anybody in the WNBA. Guess what? Everywhere LeBron James goes, not just his home, not just when he plays in LA, anywhere he goes, he sells out. You know what I mean? His jerseys sell, his merchandise sells. The ratings are there for LeBron. They're not there for WNBA players. You know, like that just means telling the truth. That's not me like being sexist. I'm just pointing out the truth. You know, so women's gymnastics gets more ratings than men's gymnastics. Does that mean that women are being sexist against men in gymnastics? No, that's not what it means at all. You know, but it just depends on the specific sport and what exactly is being generated. You know, when you start like it's just like the male boxers. If you don't sell, if you're not generating, you don't get paid. Like you're not gonna make Mayweather money if you can't sell pay per view. And no matter how much you deserve it, no matter how much blood you spilled, how you put your life in the line, none of that matters when it comes to generating profits and generating money to the sport. You know, I think that's the main. It's an economic issue. You know, it's a ratings issue, and a part of it is a cultural issue, right? We do need to get the women more. We need to give them more visibility, put them on TV more, make sure more people get to watch them, right? And that's it. You know, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. And either people are going to respond or they're not. But I'm going to tell you right now, Katie Taylor makes more than like 95% of male boxers out there. You know what I mean? Clarissa Shields makes more than the majority of male boxers out there. They're getting paid, you know? So it's top heavy on the women's side too. The only difference is there's far more male boxers. Welterweight, there's like 100 female boxers. You know, there's 2,000 male boxers, you know? So the goal here is to get the sport more visibility, including the women, so they can get paid. All right. The goal is, and that's why I keep advocating, let's not overpay boxers. I understand we're pro boxers. I understand we want them to make their money, but when you overpay one guy, you're taking money away from everybody else. You know what I mean? And like I would rather, right? 10 guys get or women, right? Get $1 million each. Then one guy get 10 million just because he demanded it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'll rather you create 10 millionaires instead of giving one guy too much money. I'll take the 10 millionaires any day. That's 5 fights. Okay. So that's all I gotta say about that. Right? We'll probably have a lot of women unsubscribe today. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Okay. But you know,
It's tough because, you know, I want to talk about what you mentioned about you men don't support the female boxing. You know, like I can almost guarantee you that if there's a way to find out who actually watched, majority of people probably would be men, because just it's more of a manly sport. There's more man fans that watch boxing than women. Not only that, but like casuals, it's hard to sell a casual fight that's not going to end in a knockout most of the time. You know, like the casuals, they love knockouts. They love those kind of fights. Like we don't really get that in the women's fights. Now, right now, it seems like to me the majority of the women that are getting popular are in the lower weight classes, the lighter weight classes, and even for the men, it's hard to get knockouts in those lower weight classes. So it's going to be even harder for the women to generate knockouts, and with the 2-minute rounds too. So it's going to be hard to generate more casuals to watch, you know, the women's fighting. So it's just, we just got to find somebody's got to come in and, like we said, just be a trendsetter, man, and get people interested. That's the only way it's going to work out for them. How and who is the question, you know?
we got to give them more visibility. That I do agree with. I do agree with when the women say, "Hey, like, how do you want us to grow?" They don't put us on TV. You know what I mean? How do you want? They don't even put us on undercards. Like, let me put it this way, okay? All those pay-per-views that we had all those years with all these crappy fights, like mismatches and shit, they could have given us some women fights. You know what I mean? Like that's what you got to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like they do need more visibility. More people need to watch them. They need to be put at least one women fight here and there on an undercard of a pay-per-view would help. You know, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to object to the fact that we don't get that many fights. You know what I mean? But let me just share this really quick because people said that this was unbelievable. I'm not saying anybody's doubting me, but the internet's acting up here, so it's a little slow. But can you see that right now?
Yeah.
Okay, this is women's world. This is all women boxers. Okay, in the world there are. All right, let's go back here, and as you can see, McCaskill's the champion there. There are actually, I was overestimating it. There's only 64 female welterweights in the world. Okay, if we go to the males, all right, you guys could always check this out in the ratings on BoxRec. Okay, what you do is you go to the last page. If we go to the males welterweight division, it's night and day. All right. For listening on the Leave It in the Ring record network right now, listening, I'm just showing the numbers on BoxRec of all the registered active fighters in the world. This is how many welterweight males there are on planet Earth. Okay. There is 2,338. Okay. Like this point blank period. If I'm just going to show one more weight class. All right. If we go to, let's say, super middleweight, right? Chicano, you want to take a guess how many super middleweights there's in the world for males?
Maybe 1,500.
Okay. So there are, this is Canelo's weight class. He's going to be fighting Callum Smith, right? There is 1,494. God damn, you were close.
Damn.
Right? How many, Chief Funky, how many female super middleweights do you think there is in the world?
50.
50?
I'm going low. Starting low.
Sure. There's only one page, guys. 24.
Less than, wow.
24. All right? Nah, but women are smaller than men. Okay, so we're going to do one more weight class before we wrap it up. Right? Let's go to bantamweight. How many male bantamweights, Chief Funky, do you think there's in the world? How many would you say?
I'd probably say about 1,000.
Okay.
Start low again.
All right. This is, Inoue, Donaire, O'Bali, Regendow. You know, this is their weight class. Right? Whoa. Okay. Oh, there we go. It's checking if I'm a real person, I guess.
I hate that.
1,059. 1,059 bantamweights in the world. How many female bantamweights, Chicano, do you believe there's out there?
Maybe a little bit more. So I would say like 75.
Man, I like how that's a high number. You know what I mean?
Well, compared to how many of the heavier females there were, I would say maybe 75 would be right there.
There's 4 pages. Okay. So for women bantamweights, right, there's 172. So, and by the way, look at the records, by the way. There's still losing records and at the tail end. Okay. 172 in the world is 0-7. Okay. For the women. If I go to the males, 172. Okay. If I go to the males right now. All right. What do you think the record of the 172 male is in the world, Chief Funky? What do you think the record is? Is it better than 0-7?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
What do you think?
Probably not. But, I mean, I don't know. Would you consider a 0-7 record better than a guy who's got 20 wins and 40 losses or something crazy like that? I mean,
172. Let's check it out here. I'm almost there. 4th page. Right? An 0-7 person, right? That's the bottom of as far as the women goes, because you got to go all the way to 2000 with the males to get a record like that. You know what I mean? 172 in the world is 6-2 out of South Africa. Okay. And if you look at the other records, 10-3, 35-19, like it's just an example, obviously. You know what I mean? But perspective. You know, perspective. That's all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that said, man, we're gonna give our final thoughts here. Shout out to D Hodges, LT, Rump PMC, Mexico Native, Monty Brown, Grape Trank, Andrew Charles, all you guys. Chicano, give us some final thoughts, bro.
Well, I feel like we've had a lot of consecutive weeks of good boxing, and I know we're not looking forward to good boxing this weekend, but during the last shutdown, I was really getting to the archives of boxing, and it was kind of becoming a drag. Like there's nothing like new boxing, but now that we've had a lot of consecutive good boxing, I'm looking forward to going back and as a choice going back and watching some old film that I haven't seen before. So I'm looking forward to seeing some classic fights, and if you guys have any recommendations, I'd be happy to hear them.
There you go. Chief, okay, give us some final words, man.
Oh, my final words are this. As far as the women's go, I've actually turned into a pretty good fan of women's boxing. Before I was kind of on the fence about it, but that's just because of the way I was raised. I was raised to, as a young man, to protect the women and not let the women fight, and things like that. Even though I had an older sister, if we were walking home together or walking to school together, my mom and dad always told me, protect your sister, make sure nobody does anything to her or anything like that. Even though she was older than me, this way I was always raised to protect the women. So, I have to say, as I was a teenager and stuff like that, seeing them fight, it was kind of like, I didn't like to see it. But as I've gotten older, and I've understood that these women are skilled. They know what they're doing. So, and they made a choice to go in there and do it. So I've become a pretty good fan of the women's boxing, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm hating on the women. It's just, it is what it is. They got to generate more money. More interest, and that's just the fact, Yeah, this was another great show. Too bad we don't have nothing to look forward to this weekend. We got some kind of okay fights next weekend, but tomorrow on Uncensored, we'll be talking about Antonio Margarito and the hand wrap situation. We'll be going a little more in depth on that because I feel like it's an interesting story. A lot of people think it's cut and dry, but there's a lot that went on that a lot of people aren't aware of in that situation. And I'm hoping to get 97 Rough from Leaving in the Ring to come on, and because he really, really followed that story. And I'm hoping that he will come on. He said he might not make it. We'll see. But if he does, we'll talk about it anyway, and then maybe we'll get him on in the future. But I think it's a good topic for us to talk about, and look forward to seeing you guys there. And thanks for tuning in. HCP Familia.
That's right. All right. This is D Style Boxing. For everybody listening on Leaving in the Ring Network, shout out to you. This was the November 17th edition. Make sure you hit the like button. Share the video on all your social media network and all that good stuff. Right. And with that said, this is D Style Boxing. And what do we say?